If you stopped working tomorrow, how much money would still hit your bank account next month? And when I say stopped working, I'm not talking about retirement. I mean, you literally decided to stop showing up to the office cold turkey and spend all day watching Netflix. For most people, the answer is a big fat zero. Because for most people, their income is essentially a leash with a paycheck attached, also known as a job. But the rich figured out something different a long time ago, and they didn't exactly go out of their way to tell the rest of us about it. If you just focus your early years on building solid cash-flowing assets, you'll never have to work again for the rest of your life, nor will your kids or your kids' kids. And here's the part that's going to mess with you a little. The best cash-producing assets, the ones producing over 90% profit margins, aren't stocks. They're not even real estate. They're a whole category of assets most people have never heard of, sitting at the top of a ladder almost nobody bothers to climb. Even with both my parents in finance, it took me too long to realize that the real money was not in a salary. It was in ownership. You need to own things that are valuable, things that can generate cash flow for you even when you're not working. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you what I wish someone told me 10 years ago. Here are 38 cash-flowing assets, starting from the ones that force you into working around the clock just to keep them running, all the way up to the ones that continue to generate cash flow decades after you retire. I'm going to measure every single rung on the ladder with one test. It's a simple question that measures how passive the income is. When you stop working, does the money stop too? The higher we climb this ladder, the more the answer becomes no. 1. Cash-flowing small businesses. This is where it all starts for a lot of people. A small business you own and run, not a startup praying for a buyout someday, a real business that will generate a profit this month. You buy it or you build it, it generates cash that you get to keep. Well, whatever is left after expenses and taxes. Most people think you need to invent the next Facebook or Amazon, but they could not be more wrong. There are owners out there clearing 10, 20, 50 grand a month from businesses you drive past without blinking. Let me break down the simple math. The average small business in the US sells for somewhere around 2 to 3 times its yearly profit. So a business making 100 grand a year might cost you $250K to buy. Find one where the owner's retiring, put down some money up front, let the business's own profit pay off the loan, and in a few years you own a cash machine free and clear. That's not a side hustle, that's a wealth machine. The catch? You stop showing up and a badly run business falls apart in a month. So this rung is powerful, but it's the least passive thing on this entire list. But we're starting at the bottom for a reason. Everything from here gets easier. 2. Boring Main Street businesses, laundromats, car washes, vending and ATM routes, plumbing, HVAC, the trades, storage. This is the stuff that is so deeply unsexy that nobody under 30 wants to touch it, which is exactly why they print money. Why do I love these businesses over AI dropshipping and other flashy business models? 2 reasons. 1, the competition is a bunch of owners in their 60s with no website and no plan to ever build one, so a halfway competent operator looks like a genius. 2, the demand doesn't go anywhere. People will always need clean clothes and working toilets, recession or not. A laundromat doesn't care what the stock market did today. A business like this can pay you every week like clockwork, while the people who laugh at it will continue grinding for a salary. Boring is beautiful. Boring is the rung you can build your lifestyle around. 3. Roll-ups. A roll-up is where you stop buying a business and start buying several small ones in the same industry and bolting them together into one bigger one. 5 small landscaping companies bought separately, glued into one regional operation, are worth way more than the 5 were apart, because bigger businesses sell for higher multiples than tiny ones. That gap is the entire play. You buy small at a low multiple, combine, cut the duplicate costs by merging stuff together and getting volume discounts, and the whole thing suddenly becomes worth a lot more money. The pros call it multiple expansion. I call it making 1 + 1 = 4. It is still very much an active operator's game. You're herding a lot of cats, which is why it's down here on the active end. But it's how a lot of quiet fortunes actually get built. Now let's buy back some of your time. The next few assets remove you from the equation to some extent. You are no longer the business. You simply own a thing and you let someone else pay to use it. Less of your sweat and a little more of the asset doing the work. 4. Renting stuff out. Let me tell you a little secret. You don't need to own a house or a building to be a landlord. You can be a landlord of things: cars on Turo, tools, cameras, party and event gear, tables, chairs, bounce houses, the stuff people need once a year and refuse to buy, RVs, trailers, power equipment. Run the math on it because it's wild. A used truck that costs you 15 grand might rent for 100 plus a day. A few years ago, I actually built up a fleet of cars on Turo and was consistently pulling in a couple $1,000s per month in profit. And by using lockboxes and giving renters discounts for taking my cars to the mechanic for me, I made it somewhat passive. You bought the asset once. It pays you over and over. That's the exact kind of asset we're chasing all the way up this ladder. Buy once, get paid many times. It's not fully passive. Somebody's got to clean the thing, and at some point, you'll have to take the car into the shop. but you can hire that out fast. Great place to learn what it feels like to get paid for owning instead of doing. 5. Equipment rental. Same idea, leveled up and aimed at businesses instead of weekend warriors. Construction equipment, generators, scaffolding, medical and lab gear, restaurant equipment. Businesses love to rent this stuff instead of buying it because buying ties up their cash and the thing depreciates. So you eat the depreciation, you take the tax perks that come with it, and they hand you a check every month. The beautiful part is the contracts get long and sticky. A construction crew renting a generator isn't renting it for an afternoon. It's the whole job, sometimes months. But the equipment itself is expensive and you've got to maintain it, so this isn't for people just starting out with a shoestring budget. But once it's deployed and rented, your job is mostly cashing checks and replacing the occasional part or two. The asset's working, you're not. That's the direction. Now let's climb to the rung where the margins start to get really nice. Okay, pay attention here, because this is the tier the title of this video was promising. This is where margins stop being good for a small business and start being 90+%. Why? Because once you've built a digital thing, selling the 10,000th copy costs you basically nothing. No inventory, no spoilage, no shipping. Build it one time, sell it forever, at almost pure profit. This is the heart of the ladder. Don't skip it. 6. YouTube channels. Yes, I see how ironic this is. You're watching this on YouTube right now. But hey, I practice what I preach. A well put together YouTube channel is an asset. You build a library of videos once, and they keep getting watched, keep running ads, keep selling whatever you sell for years. A video you made 2 years ago can still be paying you today while you sleep. I speak from personal experience. The margins are absurd because the cost to make a video is your time and maybe your phone camera, and it pays out indefinitely. Ad revenue is just the floor. The real money is sponsorships, your own products, and the audience you can sell to forever. But let me be clear, it takes real work up front, and most people quit before the back catalog gets big enough to generate serious passive income. But the people who push through own a media company that runs while they're on vacation. That's a top-tier asset disguised as a hobby. 7. Blogs and niche content sites. The quieter, nerdier cousin of YouTube and arguably more passive once it's built. A website that ranks on Google for stuff people search every single day, best espresso machines, how to fix a leaky faucet, anything. Earns money on autopilot through ads and affiliate links. Somebody searches, lands on your page, clicks a link, and makes a purchase. You get paid. You wrote the article once, 3 years ago, in your pajamas. There are people quietly clearing 5 figures a month from a site that is, in their words, basically abandoned. That's the dream. An asset that runs so deep that even when you forget you own it, it's still depositing money into your account every month. But the risk is real. Google changes the rules, and traffic can swing in either direction. So it's a good idea to diversify so you don't bet the farm on a single blog. But built right, this is one of the most passive cash-flowing assets on this list. 8. Email newsletters. A newsletter is a direct line to an audience that you own, not rented from an algorithm, owned. And that list is the asset. 2 ways it pays. Paid subscriptions, where a few thousand people kicking in $10 a month is a serious income on near zero costs. Or sponsorships, where companies pay to reach your readers. The margins are insane because your cost is, a few $100 a month in software? Everything else is profit. And unlike a YouTube channel, you're not at the mercy of anyone's recommendation engine, and you don't have to worry about getting your channel shut down because of an AI glitch. You're very much in control as long as you follow the law. You hit send, it lands. The most valuable asset you can build is a list of people who trust you and the ability to contact them whenever you want. 9. Membership communities. Take that audience and give it a clubhouse. A paid community, a place people pay monthly just to be inside. They pay to get access and to be around other people doing the same thing. Think a private group, a forum, a Discord, or a paid mastermind. Here's why it beats a one-time product. It's recurring. A course you sell once. A community, people pay for month after month after month as long as they're getting value from each other. And the gorgeous part is that past a certain size, the members create most of the value for each other. You're not making new content every day, the room is. That's leverage. People will pay to belong far longer than they'll pay to learn. Recurring revenue on a digital asset with near zero marginal cost. This is so beautiful, it brings a tear to my eye. 10. Online courses. Courses get a bad rep, but done ethically, they can print money like nothing else. Here's how it basically works. You know a thing. You record yourself teaching that thing one time. Then you sell that recording to 1,000, 10,000, or 100,000 people. And your cost to deliver copy number 100,000 is literally zero. This is where the 90% margin number turns into an understatement. Some course sellers are seeing over 99% profit margins because their only cost is $10 per month to host their website and a few bucks per sale in payment processor fees. After your first sale, you've recouped your expenses and already made a nice profit. The trap people fall into is thinking the course is the asset. It's not. The audience is the asset. The course is how you monetize it. Build the audience first, the trust first, and the course sells itself on autopilot. Get that order right, and you've got a digital product that pays you you in your sleep for years. 11. Apps and SaaS. Software as a service. You build a tool that solves an annoying problem. A budgeting app, a scheduling tool, an invoice generator, some simple little utility, and people pay you every month to keep using it. This is the holy grail of margins. Once the software exists, adding the next customer costs you almost nothing. That's why software companies are valued so insanely high. The margins are gorgeous, and the revenue is recurring and predictable. You don't have to build the next billion-dollar unicorn. A boring little tool that 2,000 people pay $15 a month for is a beautiful, beautiful business. The catch is that you either need to code it or pay someone who can, and software needs upkeep. But a paid-for tool that runs itself while charging cards every month, that's a money-making robot. 12. Franchising and licensing your brand. This is the bridge between owning a business and owning rights. You build one business that works really well, then instead of opening location number 2 yourself, you let other people pay you to copy it. They put up the money, they take the risk, they do the work, and they pay you an upfront fee plus a slice of their revenue forever, just to use your name and your system. Think about how good that deal is for you. You've turned your operating business, Rung 1, the thing that owned you, into an asset other people operate while you collect. McDonald's barely owns any restaurants. It owns the system and the real estate and makes billions from it. The work of running the stores belongs to the franchisees. You've basically converted sweat into a royalty. And royalties, as you're about to see at the top of this ladder, are the promised land. Now we step off content and onto dirt. Real estate is the rung most people think of when they hear passive income, and it's solid. But I want you to notice we're still just under halfway up the ladder because there are easier rungs above this. Real estate still needs management. Tenants call, toilets break, but the asset is real, it appreciates while it pays, and the tax game is unmatched. 13. Rental real estate. This is the classic wealth builder, and for good reason. You buy a property, someone else lives in it, their rent covers your mortgage and then some, and you pocket the difference every month while the place quietly goes up in value and a tenant pays down your loan for you. The genius isn't the rent. It's that you control a $250,000 asset with maybe 50 grand down, and you get the appreciation on the whole thing. That's leverage working for you instead of against you. Stack a few of these over a decade and you can build serious wealth on regular person income. It's not free money though. Managing tenants is a job, which is why it's not higher on this ladder. But you can hire a property manager and turn it from a job into an actual asset. This is the floor of the real estate tier. Now let's remove some of the risk. 14. Section 8 and government-backed rentals. Same as 13, but with a twist most landlords sleep on. The government pays a big chunk of the rent directly on time every month. With a Section 8 tenant, a housing authority covers most or all of the rent and deposits it like clockwork. Think about what that does to your risk. The single scariest thing about being a landlord is a tenant who doesn't pay. Here, your biggest payer is the US government, and they don't bounce checks. A lot of investors turn their nose up at this, which means less competition and motivated demand for you. The downside is that there's more paperwork and inspections to deal with, but guaranteed rent from the most reliable payer on earth, that's a feature, not a bug. You can sleep easier at night knowing the US government owes you money every month. 15. International property. Now we go off the home turf. Owning rental property in another country can get you cash flow your home market simply can't. You can command higher rental yields, lower entry prices, and a hedge against everything riding on one economy and one currency. There are places where you can buy a rentable property for a fraction of what a down payment costs back home, and the rent-to-price math actually works. But the risks are real, and I won't sugarcoat them. Different laws, different protections, currency swings, and you can't drive over to check on it. So this is for people who've done their homework and ideally have boots on the ground. Maybe you have a family member or friend you trust who lives near your foreign property. They could check in on your property once or twice a month in exchange for a little extra cash. For the right investor, international property leads to diversification and yield in one move. But don't put money into a place you don't understand. Always do your research. If in doubt, research more. 16. Self-storage, mobile home, and RV parks parking. This is my favorite flavor of real estate because it's real estate with the annoying part removed. The annoying part of being a landlord is people living in your building. Storage units, mobile home parks, parking lots. Nobody's living there calling you at 2 a.m. about a clogged sink. Storage especially is a dream. Cheap to build or buy, almost nothing to maintain, and when someone stops paying you, just put a lock on the unit. Mobile home parks are even sneakier. You often own just the land, and the tenants own their homes, so they're not going anywhere. And your maintenance is basically the road and the grass. Parking is amazing margin in a dense city. These are boring on purpose, low drama, high margin real estate. They climb higher on the ladder than a regular rental because the management headache is so much lighter. 17. Commercial and office space / NNN leases. Here's a phrase that should be tattooed on every investor: triple net lease, NNN. It means the tenant, usually a business, pays not just rent, but the taxes, the insurance, and the maintenance. You own the building. They handle basically everything. You collect a check. Picture owning the building a pharmacy or a fast food chain operates out of on a 15-year triple net lease. A big creditworthy company is contractually obligated to pay you for over a decade and to fix the roof themselves. That is about as hands-off as real estate gets. The one honest asterisk, and you saw it the last few years, is that office specifically got hammered when everyone went remote, so you've got to be choosy about what kind of commercial space you go with. But a well-located building with a strong tenant on a long net lease is one of the most truly passive real estate plays there is. 18. Infinite return real estate layering. This one sounds like a gimmick, and it absolutely is not. Here's the move. You buy a property, you fix it up so it's worth more, then you refinance it. Pull your original cash back out as a new loan, while keeping the property and its rent. Follow what just happened. You've got your down payment money back in your pocket. The property is still yours. It's still rented. It's still cash flowing. But you have zero of your own money left in the deal. So your return isn't 10% or 20%. It's infinite because you're earning cash flow on a money base of zero. Then you take that same money and do it again and again. This is how people with a normal starting stake end up owning a dozen properties. It's not magic. It's leverage and forced appreciation stacked on top of each other. It takes skill, and the math has to actually work. But when it does, it's the closest thing to a money cheat code in real estate. 19. Farmland. Your grandma's farmland might be the most brilliant asset in this entire video. You own the land. A farmer leases it from you to grow crops. They do every bit of the backbreaking work. You collect a lease check. And underneath that, the land itself has appreciated for decades. It's an asset that feeds people, that they're not making any more of, that pays you rent to do nothing, and that big institutional money has been quietly buying up for years. It's about as far from a meme stock as you can get. Here's the downside. It's not liquid, and yields are steady rather than spectacular. But for slow, durable, sleep-like-a-baby cash flow on a real asset, farmland is elite, and you can now buy slices of it online without owning a tractor. 20. Timberland. The only commodity that pays you to wait. Here's the magic of timber. While you own the land, the trees literally grow. Your inventory increases in size and value all by itself every single year. Whether lumber prices are up or down, nature does the work for free. So you've got land that appreciates, you can lease it for hunting or recreation in the meantime for extra income. And when prices are good, you harvest and sell. And if prices are bad, you just don't cut. The trees keep growing, the asset keeps getting bigger, and you wait. There's no spoilage, no urgency, no panic selling. It's one of the most patient, low-stress assets on earth. Big endowments and pension funds have parked money here forever for exactly that reason. Land that grows your money by literally growing. Okay, now we're mixing things up and need a different mindset. We're done owning things. On this tier, you own the debt. You lend money, and other people pay you interest for the privilege. The bank has always been the most profitable seat in the room. Time to sit in it. 21. Tax liens and distressed notes. When a property owner doesn't pay their property taxes, the local government still wants its money. So in a lot of places, they sell that debt to investors. To you. You pay the tax bill, and now the owner owes you, plus interest, often at rates set by law that are way higher than a savings account. Two ways it ends, and you win on both. Either they pay you back with that fat interest, or in some cases, if they never pay, you can end up with the property itself for pennies on the dollar. Distressed notes are the same energy. You buy a loan somebody else stopped paying on at a steep discount, and either collect or work it out. It's a more advanced game, you've got to know the rules in your state, and it can get legally complex, but you're stepping into the lender's shoes, and the lender's shoes are where the money is. 22. Private and P2P lending, promissory notes. This is like being the bank, but simplified. You lend money directly to a person or a business, and they pay you back with interest on a schedule written down in a document called a promissory note. That's it. That's the asset. A piece of paper that says someone owes you money plus interest. Real estate investors do this constantly. They need money fast for a deal, and they'll happily pay you 10-12% to borrow it short term, secured by the property itself. So your money is out earning double-digit interest, backed by a hard asset you could take if they don't pay. The whole job is vetting who you lend to and getting the paperwork right. Do that well, and you've got money making money with no tenants, no toilets, and no employees. But the risk is obvious. Lend to the wrong person, and you can lose a lot of money. So you lend carefully and never lend what you can't afford to lose. 23. Litigation finance. This is an exotic one most people have never heard of. Lawsuits are expensive and slow, and a lot of people with a strong case can't afford to fight a giant company for years. So investors front the legal costs, and if the case wins, they get a slice of the settlement. You're not chasing ambulances. This is a real institutional asset class now. The beauty of it is, it's completely uncorrelated to the stock market. A jury verdict doesn't care what the S&P did this week. But the reality, it's lumpy and binary. Cases can lose, and your money's tied up for a while. So it's a diversifier, a slice of the portfolio, not the whole thing. But owning a piece of other people's legal claims, paying out independent of the entire economy, that's the kind of asset the wealthy use to diversify assets when everything else is shaky. 24. Captive insurance. A captive is an insurance company that you own that insures your own businesses. Instead of paying premiums to some giant insurer and never seeing that money again, you pay premiums to your own insurance company. And if you don't have big claims, that money stays with you, invested and growing. So you've turned a pure expense, insurance, into an asset that holds and grows your capital, with serious tax advantages baked in. This is very advanced territory. You need real businesses, real scale, and a very good accountant, and the rules are strict. I'm not telling you to set one up next Monday. I'm introducing it to you so you understand the level the wealthy actually play on, where even your insurance bill becomes something you own and profit from. That's the mindset shift this whole ladder is teaching. The next few assets are even stranger. You don't run anything and you don't lend anything. You just own a piece of businesses other people break their backs running, and they send you your share of the profit. This is where it starts to feel genuinely passive. 25. GP stakes. Here's a secret from inside the machine. The most profitable seat in all of finance isn't being an investor in a fund. It's owning a piece of the firm that runs the funds. A GP stake means you own a slice of the management company itself, so you collect a cut of the management fees and a cut of the profits on everything they invest across billions of dollars forever. This is the rich people equivalent of owning the casino instead of playing the tables. The fund managers do all the work raising money and making deals. You own a piece of their whole operation, and the fees roll in regardless of any single deal. It's normally locked behind massive minimums and connections, which is exactly why almost nobody knows it exists. I'm putting it here so you know what the top of the financial food chain actually looks like. Owning the manager, not the fund. 26. Energy companies and MLPs. Now back to assets you can actually buy from your couch. Energy companies, especially pipeline operators structured as MLPs, are in the business of moving oil and gas through pipes, and they get paid a toll on every barrel that flows, like a highway charging for every car. The reason income investors love these is the dividends and distributions are fat, often well above what regular stocks pay. These businesses are boring, toll-collecting cash machines. They're literally in the fuel business. The modern world runs on energy, and these companies tax that flow. The catch is energy prices swing, and the tax paperwork on MLPs is a little annoying, so you'll need a very good accountant. But for high, steady income from infrastructure the whole economy depends on, this asset earns its spot. 27. Dividend-paying stocks and preferred shares. Almost anyone in the world can do this. The most accessible cash flow asset on the planet. You buy a share of a great company, and 4 times a year, sometimes monthly, they mail you a cut of the profits just for owning it. You did nothing. You own the share, the check shows up. That's it. The best of these are companies that have raised their dividend every year for decades, through recessions, through crashes, through everything. Preferred shares sit a step up the ladder of who gets paid first and usually pay even higher fixed income. This is about as hands-off as owning a business gets. No employees, no tenants, no calls. You're a part owner of a profit machine, collecting your slice. But the downside is the same as with any kind of investing. Dividends can be cut in hard times, so you'll need to spread across many companies for diversification. But generally speaking, money showing up in your account for doing absolutely nothing is truly passive. 28. Dividend and income ETFs/index funds. Don't want to pick the individual companies? Don't. Buy the whole basket. An income-focused ETF or index fund holds hundreds of dividend-paying companies at once and pays you the combined blended income, instantly diversified, in one click. This is the lazy genius move, and I'm not being sarcastic. This is one of the few times in life when the people taking the lazy route beat everyone else. Just one purchase and you own a slice of hundreds of profit machines with the income automatically pooled and passed to you. If one company cuts its dividend, who cares? You own 499 others. The fees are tiny, the diversification is automatic, and you can set it to auto-invest and reinvest so it compounds without you ever logging in. Set it, forget it, and keep getting paid. If you wanted to start investing in index funds, you can use an online trading platform like Moomoo. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out. 29. REITs. A REIT lets you own real estate without owning real estate. It's a company that owns piles of property, apartments, warehouses, data centers, cell towers, storage, and by law, it has to pay out the vast majority of its profits to shareholders as dividends. So you get the cash flow of a landlord with the ease of buying a stock. No tenants, no toilets, no down payment, no mortgage. You click buy and you own a slice of 1,000 properties paying you rent through a dividend. Stick to the non-office kind for the reasons we covered. Warehouses, data centers, storage, the stuff with real tailwinds, and you've got real estate income on full autopilot. This is real estate that finally behaves like a truly passive asset. We're near the top now. Okay, home stretch. If you're still watching, you're a real one. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss my upcoming videos. These next few assets won't make you rich. That's not their job. Their job is to pay you reliably and let you sleep at night while harder working money does the heavy lifting elsewhere. The safest, most boring, most truly passive assets before the summit. 30. Bonds. A bond is the simplest version of being the bank. You lend money to a government or a company, and they pay you a fixed interest payment on a set schedule, then give your principal back at the end. Predictable and boring, but also incredibly reliable. You always know exactly what you're getting and when, which is the entire point. When everything else is on fire, bonds are the calm corner of the portfolio still quietly paying. Nobody's getting rich off bonds, and you shouldn't be loaded up on them when you're young and should be taking more swings. But as a place to park money that has to be there and has to pay, they're foundational. 31. High-yield savings, CDs, money market, T-bills. This might be the single most passive cash flow assets on this entire list, and the one almost everyone leaves on the table. Cash sitting in a regular checking account earns you nothing, a literal rounding error. That same cash in a high-yield savings account, a CD, a money market fund, or short-term treasury bills earns you real interest with basically zero risk and zero effort. I cannot believe how many people let tens of thousands of dollars sit in an account paying basically zero when moving it takes 5 minutes and starts paying them right away. This is free money you are actively declining. It won't build your fortune because the rate barely beats inflation when inflation rates are low, but every dollar you're keeping in cash should be in something that pays. You can even keep your emergency fund here instead of inside a regular checking account. Do this right after watching this video. It's the lowest hanging fruit. 32. Annuities. An annuity is a deal you cut with an insurance company. You hand them a lump sum, and they contractually promise to pay you a steady income, sometimes for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live. For the right person, near or in retirement, that's powerful. A paycheck that never stops, that you can't outlive, regardless of what the market does. It's the ultimate set it and never think about it again income. But keep this in mind, a lot of annuities are sold with garbage fees and confusing fine print by people earning a fat commission off you. So this is not a young person's tool for growing wealth, and you need to read every line before signing. But used right, as guaranteed lifetime income, it's a legitimate, deeply passive asset. Just don't get sold a bad one. Now we are at the top of the ladder, the penthouse. Up here, you don't own a business or a building or even a stock. You own a right. And people pay you every time they use it. There's no inventory, no maintenance, no tenants, no employees. The margins aren't 90%. They're pretty much 100. This is the most passive money on earth, and it's the tier almost nobody climbs to because almost nobody is told it exists. 33. Land leases. This is the most passive real estate that exists because you're not renting a building, you're renting the right to a spot. A cell tower on your land, a billboard, a solar array, a ground lease where someone else builds and operates and just pays you for the dirt underneath. Think about how clean this is. You own a patch of land. A phone company bolts a tower to it and signs a lease for 20-30 years, with rent that bumps up over time. You do nothing. You maintain nothing. You just own the spot they need and they pay you for decades. No tenants to manage, no toilets, no roof to fix. It's real estate stripped down to its purest, most passive form. Owning the right to a location. That's why it lives up here with the royalties. And speaking of royalties, 34. Books, songs, and digital products. You write a book or sing a song once, and it sells over and over again for years while you do nothing. You are not printing the books or shipping the CDs. Other people do that and pay you for permission. Your margin for each new sale is literally 100%. A self-published book can pay royalties every single month for a decade off work you did one weekend years ago. A pack of design templates can sell 10,000 times. A song can earn every time it's streamed, forever. This is the purest expression of this video's lesson. Build the thing one time, get paid an unlimited number of times. You're not selling your hours anymore. You sold the output of a few hours, and now it sells itself on repeat. That's how you can build generational wealth while still having tons of free time. 35. Patents. You own an idea and make the whole world pay rent on it. A patent is a legal monopoly on an invention, and you don't have to build a factory to profit from it. You license it. Companies that want to use your invention pay you a royalty on every unit they make and sell. You've probably seen deals like this on Shark Tank, and this is like owning a toll booth on innovation. The company takes all the risk of manufacturing and selling. You just own the right, and you collect a cut of everything. Some of the wealthiest people on earth are inventors who never built a single product. They just own the patents and license them out. It's advanced, it costs money and time to secure one, and you've got to have something genuinely useful that people want to buy. But if you do, you've got an asset that prints money off other people's factories. That's about as passive and high margin as capitalism gets. 36. Music, film, and IP catalogs. Here's where it gets really interesting. You don't even have to create the IP. You can buy someone else's. There's a booming market in buying catalogs of songs, films, and other intellectual property that already earn royalties, and then collecting those royalties yourself. This is why you keep seeing headlines about funds paying hundreds of millions for old song catalogs. They're not nostalgic. They're buying a predictable, decades-long royalty stream that pays out every time that song gets streamed, played in a movie, or sung in a commercial, completely independent of the stock market or the economy. You buy the catalog, the checks roll in forever. It's the ultimate own the rights other people built play. Wall Street figured this out and turned it into an asset class. Now you know it exists too. 37. Royalties generally. Let's zoom out, because royalties is the whole philosophy at the top of this ladder, not just one item. A royalty is the purest asset there is. You own a right and you get paid a percentage every time someone uses it, indefinitely, for doing nothing. Oil and gas royalties. You own a slice of the mineral rights and get paid on every barrel pumped forever, while never touching a drill. Franchise royalties, licensing royalties, book and music royalties. It's all the same beautiful structure. Own the right, collect the toll, repeat for life. The wealthy are obsessed with royalties because they are the closest thing on earth to money that exists completely independent of your time. This is what the entire climb has been building toward, getting your income as far away from your hours as humanly possible. 38. Unique rights and trademarks. This is the top of the ladder, the most passive, highest margin asset of all, a unique right that only you can grant. A trademark, a name, a logo, a brand that you license to others. Naming rights, broadcast rights, exclusive territory rights, the right to use a word or an image that legally belongs to you alone. This is owning a piece of language or identity itself and charging the world to use it. A brand you trademark and license, you can collect on forever while other people do all the selling under your name. It is the final form of the lesson this whole video has been teaching. The less your income depends on your hands and your hours, and the more it depends on a right you own, the wealthier and freer you become. From rung 1, where you were the business, to rung 38, where you own a word and the world pays to say it. That's what climbing the wealth ladder looks like. Now, as a bonus for watching until the end, I've got to protect you from two things that get sold to you as cash flowing assets and truly aren't. Because the people selling them make a commission, and I don't. First, you have whole life insurance as private banking. You'll hear gurus pitch this as be your own bank. You overfund a whole life policy, borrow against it, magic. But here's the honest truth. A participating policy does pay small dividends, and there are legitimate uses for it in estate planning for wealthy families. But as a cash flow asset, it's mostly a savings and financing vehicle wrapped in high fees and a great sales script. It's not throwing off income the way a rental or a royalty does. It's a place to store and borrow money, not a machine that makes it. Different tool, know the difference. Number 2 is direct indexing with tax loss harvesting. This can actually be a pretty smart strategy, owning the individual stocks of an index so you can sell the losers to lower your tax bill. But notice what it actually does. It reduces what you pay, it doesn't produce income. The underlying stocks might pay some dividends, sure, but the whole point of the strategy is tax optimization, not cash flow. Saving money is great, it's just not the same thing as an asset paying you. Don't confuse a tax trick with a cash machine. Both of these are fine tools in the right hands. They're just not what we came here for. So here's what you need to do. Start by figuring out which rung you're standing on right now. You'll need to be honest with yourself. Most of you are at the very bottom. All your income is rung 0, a salary that stops the second you stop clocking into work. That's fine. That's where everybody starts. But this week, I want you to reach for exactly one rung up. If you've got cash sitting in a checking account earning nothing, move it to a high-interest savings account. If you're ready for more, pick one digital asset from that 90% margin tier and start building it. Just one rung, then next month one more. If you want to start investing for the long term, you can use an online trading platform like Moomoo to buy index funds. Right now, Moomoo is offering up to $1,000 worth of free NVIDIA stock just for creating an account and funding it. The link is in the description below. The difference between the person who stays a slave to their paycheck for 40 years and the person who's free at 50 is not luck. And it's not a lucky windfall. It's that one of them kept climbing and the other one stood still.